Okay, so before we left off, we were able to instantiate some text now that is customized, and we are able to create it in different colors and stuff and move it upwards. In this part, we are going to make sure that we can actually fade out this text here. And we can do that inside our combat text script. Basically, we need to create a new function here, and it's going to be an enumerator called fade out. And the reason that we are going to make an enumerator, it's going to return an enumerator, is because it's going to be a coroutine. So a coroutine is something that can run at the same time as something else. So we're going to make a private enumerator fade out. So basically we are doing this because we wanted to wait some time before it fades and want to run it over in a course of time fading out. And that's why we're doing it inside a enumerator, so we can do it over time. First of all, I would need to show you what we're actually going to do. If we put in some text here, I don't need it in full screen. Apparently I have a bad habit about putting in the full screen. If we do like this and we instantiate some text, we'll see we can actually grab one of them right here. We have text here, and usually I would take the canvas here and change the, make it a canvas group and everything and change the alpha for that. But if we do that, then every single text here is going to be faded out, and we're not interested in that. We only want to fade out one of the text at a time, or at least progressively. So the first one that fades, that gets instantiated first, is of course also going to fade out first. But if we would do it on the canvas level, well, then every single text would be faded out at the same time. We're not interested in that. So if we select one of the text here and we go to the color, you'll see that the color has an alpha value. And this is the alpha value that we are going to play around with. If we do from our script, we'll take this alpha value and reduce it, you'll see that it fades out slowly. So you can see the hello down here. If you look down there, when I do this, you'll see that it actually fades out and disappears. And this is what we want to do from our script. So if we come back in here, we'll need to make a float called start alpha, and it's equal to get component text color.alpha a, of course. So again, if you can't reach the text, remember to write using Unity engine.ui. The reason I have it up here from the get-go is because I just copy pasted my scripts from the working project and I forgot to delete the usings up here. So yeah, write it up here, Unity.ui, if you can't reach the text. Now we have the start alpha, so it starts on 255 as usual, but just to make sure that we get the right value, we are going to get the alpha directly from the text instead of writing 255 ourselves. So our float, we need to create a rate, so float rate is equal to 1.0 float divided by the fade time. So this is basically needed so that we can progress over time, so we can tell this time that it should take X amount of seconds to fade out. So let's say we take 3 seconds, then we need this rate to be able to fade it out over a course of that time. When we have generated the rate we actually need to fade it out, well, then we need to say float progress, let's call it that, is equal to 0.0. So our progress is 0.0 when we start out, and at some point this progress is going to be 1.0, and when it's 1.0, then we're done fading and we should stop it. So if we make a while loop here, we can say if our progress is less than 1.0, then we are going to fade. So we're going to save the color temporary color is equal to get component text dot color. So now we are storing the color of all the information about the color of the text in a all the information about that's the text color. We're storing that, the RGBA, we're storing that inside that variable we just made, so that we can reach it and check up on what the progress is, and we can use it to fade it out, of course. Then we're going to say get component text dot color equals new color, and then our temporary color dot red, our temporary color dot green, our temporary color dot blue. So now we have set up, because we don't need to change the RGB of the color, we only want to change the alpha. And this is now we're going to change the alpha. So we leave the red, the green and the blue color the same, so we don't change the color of it during the course of the time, unless you want to change, of course, the actual color of the text over time as well. Anyway, we need to give it an alpha here. As you can see, it asks for an alpha. And now we're going to change it by saying matf.lerp. So we're going to lerp from our start alpha towards 0, because we're done fading when we're going towards 0, and we are going to use the progress here as the t. So this actually returns a number between 0 and 1, this lerp here. So we have a start alpha which is 255, and our endpoint here is 0. So at some point our current alpha is going to be what is 127 or something, when it's half. Okay, my math is bad apparently. 127 or something to be halfway through 255 and 0. And when it's halfway there, the progress is going to be 0.5, and when it's all the way there, when it's 0, well, then the progress is going to be 1, and then we're going to break the loop. So that's basically what we are doing right here. We are figuring out how far we are for being done with fading out and in. Yes, that's basically what it is. Then we also need to change the progress, of course. So we are going to say progress plus equal to rate multiplied by time dot delta time, so that it all of course also updates. So here we are changing the color, and here we are updating the progress, so that we at some point can stop looping. Not all code paths return a value, it says here. So down here we basically have to say yield return null, because we need to yield return inside a coroutine, because it needs to continue its progress all the time. Basically yield makes sure that you can return and continue from the same point in C#. Okay, save this, and let's see, we had a fade time, but we're not using the fade time for anything right now. So we need to tell the initialize here that we need to use a fade time as well. So float fade time, and we can say this dot fade time equals fade time, the same way as before. Let's save this, and now it's going to complain in here, and we need to give it a fade time. Let's say that we make a public float fade time, and we are going to give it in here fade time. So let's save this, jump into Unity. Our comma text manager needs to have set the fade time when it updates. Let it just build. There we go. Let's say it takes 2 seconds. Let's try to run the game here. And it doesn't fade out, because of course we need to start the coroutine first. I was a little too fast there. Where do I want to start the coroutine? I want to start it in initialize, I think. So when we have initialized the text in here, we can say start coroutine fade out, of course. Let's just rename this to fade out with a large O. There we go. Okay. So now we're making sure that we're starting the coroutine. Before we didn't run it at all. Let's try to play the game again and see what happens. There we go. So now you can see the text is slowly fading out when I'm instantiating it here. So it disappears again. But if you look in the hierarchy here, you'll see that there are so many text clones right now, and that's not what we want. We want to delete them again from our game when they're not there anymore, or not needed anymore, should I say. So down here we basically just say destroy game object. There we go. So let's save this and let's run the game again. So let's see if we spam this. Computer is a little slow starting up. See that the texts are disappearing again now. So now we're deleting them when they're not needed anymore. So let's just save the scene here. Yeah, so that was basically it for making stuff fade out. I'm going to end this part now, and in the next part we are going to have a look at how we can create critical strikes so that it pops up when we get a critical and it goes away again, so that we can actually notice critical strikes instead of just having the same text for both critical strikes and normal hits and everything. When we're done with that, we are going to have a look at how we can use it when we collide with some other objects and stuff. So let's move on to the next part.